everyone, and welcome to Pursue the Pull, the podcast that is geared towards helping people who are looking for a career change and for those who want to pursue their dreams and work for themselves and set up their own business. So how do we differ from all of the other inspirational podcasts? Because there's a lot out there. Well, what we do is we interview people from a range of different industries. So if you want to set up your own restaurant or marketing agency or floristry or clothing line, whatever it is, we have someone specifically from that industry to tell you where and how to start, the highs and the lows, and most importantly, the truth. So we are one group, one community, and we have all of the answers. I am your host, Stacey Bevan, and today I have an amazing guest. I am joined by Yasmin, who is the owner of the Sisi The Collection, which is the fashion brand with a twist. So first of all, thank you for joining us, Yasmin, and we really appreciate the insight that you're about to give us.
Hi, Stacey. No, it's an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast. And just a little correction, I own the brand with my best friend. So there are two of us owning
There's two of you. Amazing.
But I'm very glad to be on your podcast.
Amazing. No, thank you for joining us. We are so excited to have you here. Now, before actually bringing me on to that, before I do go into the questions that have been devised by our audience, I just want to give a bit of a background into you and your company and your friend's company and what it is that you actually offer. So you started out, you're actually a social worker by training and you majored in political economy and social work. Then you got married in 1992 and you decided to stay at home when your children were born. And then you established that you needed a bit of a creative outlet to express your identity. And this was actually done through your love of clothes and a unique interpretation of your own style. And then by chance, you were involved with Jamal, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce his surname. Can you pronounce it for me?
It's Nkadana.
That's the one. Okay. I wasn't even going to attempt that. But you was involved with Jamal on his ambassadors campaign, and it allowed you to feel the confidence to start a brand with your best friend, which you just explained. And the Sisi The Collection was born in 2014, and it's still going strong now. Your distinct presence has given you the privilege to partner with some amazing cool brands, and your Instagram presence, which I have actually seen, which is incredible, creates a platform for you to share your love of style, your beliefs on aging, and a general view of women and their desire to break boundaries. So with all of that said, I'm just going to jump into the first question because I'm so excited. So tell me, in terms of your background, what did you do before you started the business and how did you make the transition? I know you said you were stay at home, but was you employed before? How did it all start? Did you dive straight in? Did you have a plan? Where did it all come from? Where did it all begin?
Well, I'm a woman with no plan ever. That's what I'll say from the get-go. But I think my love of fashion has always been something that has been part of my life. My love of creating stories through my clothes has always been there. I think it's a familial thing. My family generally, very much a stylish family, especially my dad, my mum. So that was always something that I witnessed growing up. And I grew up in an area and at a time in South Africa when the thing that you had to show for yourself was part of your clothes were, they were telling the story, because we lived in a time where people were separated, as you know, by color. People had they had stereotypes about what people of color, how they were, what they thought of themselves, etc. And a lot of the ways that we could show that we were not who you think we are was through our great sense of style and our great sense of dressing. So I think culturally that was handed down to me. In my family that was handed down to me. So it's always been there. And going into social work is not really different because people think you love fashion, but then you went into social work. I think the fact that I got into social work in terms of my political sensibilities translates into how I use my clothes to tell stories through my age. So the politics are always there. It's part of how I meld my principles the way I think. So I think it shows you the seriousness of how I view fashion, not just something frivolous that you throw on clothes and that it means nothing. It means something to me as a woman, as part of my religion, as part of my age. So there's a lot of intersectionalities there. And I think they go together with my social work background and with the fact that I love style, because they never disconnected your fashion and your politics.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's always been there.
Yeah, definitely. So where did the thought, because I mean, you could have gone into the retail sector and worked for a company. So where did the thought of, doing it alone and going into your own business with your friend, where did that come about, and how did that transition happen? Was it difficult at first to go it alone, basically? How did that start?
So like you said in the bio, I was at home for a long time with, my children going through their school lives and, being the mom, driving up and down, doing the school plays, the things that I never thought I would do, because I never thought I'd actually be a stay-at-home mom. I don't regret it for 1 minute, but I did know that there was a point when I had to do something for myself. My friend Cynthia, we've known each other for a very long time. She's like my, I don't know, we are besties. Always been, she's a designer. We always said that we wanted to do something together. It was never the right time because I was very comfortable in my, my role as mother to my children, housewife, etc. I traveled a lot with my husband. So it was never the right time to start a business. But when I did that ambassador campaign with Jamal, it almost like lit something in me without me even thinking too much about it. I just thought, wow, this is something that I can now actually do. I have the time, I have the energy. I've always wanted to do something myself. And I called her one day and I said, I think we have to do what we've always spoken about.
Wow.
Never thought about which direction it was going to be, but I knew that it had to be something in fashion. In terms of at least the sort of niche that we decided to go into. So that was it. No plan, no nothing. Like I said, I'm a woman with no plan. And that's how we did it. I decided to come out of my comfort zone and just take a risk.
Wow. And did you need like a lot of capital up front? Did you need funding, or did you get investors? How did that side of it work?
I am, when people ask me that, because people have asked a lot, how did it start? There was no business plan. There was no thought of, okay, how much money do we have? And I know that's not easy for a lot of people, because sometimes people don't have anything and they need to go and find investors, etc. We thought we'd start with something very small. I said, how much money do you have? How much money do you want to put in? We'll do half so that it's equal from the beginning, and we'll do a small collection and let's see how that goes. We knew that we wanted to do white shirts and black shirts. If you look at my friend at some point in her Instagram, she has a love of white shirts. And on her board, many years ago, I sent her a picture of a woman with a white skirt, white shirt. And it's almost like that stayed there with her staring at that picture. And that was that sort of manifestation many years later of a white shirt brand that we decided to do. I call her the queen of white shirts. And I said, this is where we need to look, because so many people are doing lots of different things, suits, different types of fashion. But we needed to look at something classic, something that anybody can have in their wardrobe for a long period of time. We don't want to overproduce. We don't want people to want things every month, because that's not the type of business we are. We wanted something to look forward to. And so our whole model is very different to the sort of usual, bringing out something every season and so on. But that's basically how it was born. How much money do you have? how much money do I have? Let's go for it.
Incredible.
And let's see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And so in terms of like inspiration, was there any kind of people that you followed or anyone that helped you in terms of this journey, any videos or YouTube or anything like that that really inspired you or helped you and motivated you? Where did that motivation, that self-motivation come from?
I think the motivation generally came from people around me. First of all, from her, from Cynthia. She has been doing her business besides ours. She's also still in the fashion industry, but she has a more bespoke business for business women, suits, more sort of tailored stuff. Whenever I looked at her, I thought that's where I want to be, with her doing this business, because she did it on her own. Powerful friends around me who were doing fabulous things in their careers, different careers, not necessarily fashion. They were great motivators for me as well. My friends, I have a great group of women around me doing fabulous things. Not just the women around me, but other young designers who I could see were hungry to succeed. And it inspired me, and it still inspires me every day. What goes on in South Africa, what goes on in the fashion industry around me, young people wanting to do amazing things, and that spurs me on every day.
Incredible. And in terms of, there is a lot of fear that people face when they want to start their own business or go it alone. And, is there anything that you can kind of advise on? How did you overcome your fear or, any challenges that you faced? How did you continue and how did you deal with that?
So I think we all have fears when we have to step from one thing into another. The leap can sometimes feel so big that you think, I'm never going to make it. But I always knew that part of growth and part of human growth is that there are times when we fail, and failing allows us to learn and then to do something differently. So even in that first collection, when we got it all together, and if someone said, how are you going to sell all these clothes? It's not going to happen. We literally said, we are going to take our chances. So when you get out of your comfort zone and you take that risk, once that foot is in the water, you just have to keep on walking. How you sink or swim is going to be up to you. But what you do and how you learn is what's going to prove everybody. Whatever you start is going to be successful. Ours happens to have been successful in these past few years. But we also know, and we are also realistic, that there can be something, you can have a collection next year that people go, oh, no, we don't like that. But that's going to be something that we have to learn from. So I think fear is what we tell ourselves. But I think we all really have to, it's like, like a mother, you always want to protect your children. You never want them to go out there to get hurt. But it's how we learn to navigate the world, because we have to navigate it with the successes and with the failures, with the fears and without the fears.
It's true. Amazing advice. And, we've talked about the start of your business and how you have faced these fears and, how you began. But one question we get a lot is, so once you've begun, how do you go to that next level of growth and sustain that growth and continue to grow? How does that growth stage happen? Was there any crises you had to overcome to go to that next level? Or was it just once you got your first client, that was it?
So we have an unusual sort of business model. Maybe it's not so unusual elsewhere, but it's unusual here. Okay. We produce a collection once a year.
Okay.
So, we try and sort of create a desire for people to wait, not to have every need just satisfied immediately. And that has sort of been successful. There are times, of course, when perhaps there's one item in a collection that doesn't sell as well as others. But that tells us that, okay, we need to leave that, we move on to something else. Sorry, I'm just going off track. What was the question again?
No, it was just how did you grow the business, how did you continue to grow? Obviously, you're saying that your business model is a little bit different, but obviously you've told us the journey how you began, but how do you continue to grow?
We continue to grow by knowing what our clients want, by tapping into what goes on around us. You don't always get it right. We've made a decision that for now we want to be a small business. Of course, in our heads, we'd like to become bigger, to go into other markets, perhaps overseas. But then you also have to get yourself out of the zone, because you can be in a comfort zone, whether you're a housewife, and you're in a comfort zone, whether you're in a small business. And from that small business, you need to move into something bigger. And that's the point where we are at now, is finding the little ways that we are going to grow bigger. It comes with discussion. It comes with trusting your instincts. It comes with trusting the person you are in business with. It comes with taking advice from other people who have tried to grow their businesses, and perhaps it's taken a little bit longer. They can advise you. So it's depending on, on all those things, never just thinking that you know it all. I think growth in terms of business comes with where you want to be, because your business can be a small business, but that's how you want to keep it. It doesn't always have to be this big, huge thing. If your small business makes you happy and sustains you, because you need to know what your goals are, how the small business sustains, whether it's your family, your personal, whether you're a single person, whether it sustains that, what you want to do with your life, how it sustains you going forward into your next collection, etc. And those are very personal decisions. So for us, we've worked on this once a year business model, and it's worked really well for us. Of course, we want to venture into other markets, and that's the decision that we need to make, because that comes with a whole lot of other admin. It comes with, getting out of a new comfort zone. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And just to round things up, this is something that, I like to ask at the end, because I think it's really important. But from your perspective, from your point of view, what advice would you give to people who are thinking about starting their own company? They may be scared, they may have fear, they may be unsure of what to do, not aligned, they're not sure of their passion yet. But what advice would you give to those people?
It's a very difficult thing, because I can say just do it, because that really is my motto. I do what I like, in terms of, even if it's my personal stuff, my personal Instagram, the way I dress. My motto is to do what I love and what I want. In business, sometimes it's very difficult, because you are hamstrung by finances. Sometimes that's very difficult. Young designers will often come to me and say, how do I start? And I say, just start. Sometimes we overthink things. We want to have this huge idea. You want to have 15 looks, for instance. You may not have the money for the fabric or to create those looks. Start with 3 looks. Put it on Instagram. Give it to your friends. Give it to people who can showcase it for you. Ask people if they don't want to invest in these 3 looks. There are so many different ways that if you speak to people, there are ways that you can hesitancy. But for me, it's really taking the risk. Never overthinking what it is you want to do. You really have to just jump, and you have to go for it. I think overthinking is our biggest problem.
Definitely agree. I'm guilty of that myself. I do tend to overthink, and I've had the same advice. You've just got to go for it. So that's brilliant advice. But look, thank you so much. You've given us so much insight, and I know that a lot of people are going to really appreciate everything you've told us, in terms of, you've been very vulnerable as well, and you've been honest and open. So we really appreciate that. So thank you so much for your time, Yasmin. It was lovely to meet you, and I'm very excited for this podcast to come out.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and like I say, just trust your instinct. You will go very far when you do that. We naysay ourselves a bit too much.
We do.
And lovely meeting you, and lovely chatting with you.
And you. Thank you, Yasmin.